It's a powerful feminine rite of passage. It's probably the most powerful rite of passage you will experience, because the other rite of passage is puberty, when you've got it all stretching out ahead of you. This is the rite of passage when you can go bye, and you come out the end of that tunnel, and the light at the end of that tunnel is one of the brightest lights you will ever see in your life. So step into it, embrace it, and shine brightly, because life on the other side is fantastic.
Oh, beautiful. Excellent.
Há quem veja o invisível, há quem faça o impossível. Depois de tudo, alguma coisa vem dizer que tudo bem.
Welcome to the Menopause Retro-Journeys, which is a series of get-togethers with women. We have conversations and we go back to their menopause years and we talk about the ups, the downs, their stories. And what I'm really interested in is to go and, if possible, get out some of those gems and wisdom bits that these women have received during that phase of their lives. And if possible as well, new ways of being that these kind of trace. It's like they mark the beginning of our second half of our lives. And usually we do a retro journey because usually it's easier to connect the dots and do this as we go backwards and look at the story. So I am your host. My name is Ioanna Matsouli and I'm the creator of the Menopause Codex. And today, my dear guest is Katie Day. Welcome, Katie.
Welcome, thank you.
And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her bio and where Katie comes from, and then we're going to start our chat together. So Katie is one of the leading voices on the menopause in the UK and has many UK and global private, public, health, and education sector clients, where she delivers RDPIs, that's your consultancy agency, right? Suite of programs under the banner of Midlife Matters. Very nice. She is an associate of the British Menopause Society and member of the European Menopause and Andropause Society, and also a member of the International Menopause Society. So very menopause involved, and works in close collaboration with leading clinical partners, 2 professors of gynecology. She has appeared on TV and radio in the UK, India, Canada, US, Australia, and the Middle East, with the most recent BBC Radio Sussex. And in April 22 and October 2023, she organized and delivered menopause conferences in the UK Parliament. Really amazing, with a panel of national speakers, including 2 MPs and 1 minister. Katie is a qualified business coach and has been in the equality, diversity, and inclusion space for over 30 years. So a pioneer, from what we said last time. And developed a leadership and personal development program for women in the mid-90s. So that's quite a while ago. That she has delivered in the UK, the US, India, and the Middle East. She has written 2 books on women's personal development and appears regularly as a keynote speaker at global conferences. She gave a TEDx talk in 2019, and I love the title, The Roar of the Menopause. And has just graduated from the University of Wales, Trinity St. David, with a master's in professional practice, which she started at the age of 60. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You got to be a student again. So welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's just an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, same here. I listened to your story. You do tell a bit your menopause story in that TEDx video, and I loved the transition when you go from the rage to the roar. I like that you lionized menopause. Is so good. And, so maybe so some of you can find a bit of your story. What I also want to really dive into with you is that you had a very difficult, rough time during your menopause, right? So, and at the same time later on, you managed to transcend this phase and alchemize it. So I want to go into a little bit all these
Mm.
workings and dynamics. So maybe the best way to start is you tell us a little bit like your classic, maybe how your journey with your menses has been in your life from the beginning till the end, and then we go together
Oh.
through this.
Yeah, I had an interesting experience with hormones. You know, we have the same hormones from puberty to postmenopause, but the impact of those hormones will do their own thing. They're going to do what they're going to do when they're going to do it, and we don't know until they turn up what the impact is going to be. So there is no one size fits all. And in the UK, so the average age for puberty for girls and boys is 11, but
Okay.
the span is 8 to 14. So anything between 8 to 14 is seen from a medical point of view to be a natural age for puberty to kick in. If it kicks in under the age of 8, it's called precocious puberty, which I think is a very interesting, the medical profession has some very interesting terms, like women who give birth at over 30 are called geriatric mothers, and precocious puberty. I mean, yeah, anyway.
Geriatric is interesting because it's the hieros is the Greek word. I'm Greek, so it means old. It's an old person, hieros, when you are an old. So geriatric is the medicine of is the medicine of being an older person. Yeah.
So I think some of the terms used in the medical profession are interesting, and maybe it's time to have a bit of a review, but that's just my personal
I agree.
So anyway, apparently I was precocious because my puberty kicked in at 5, so I had precocious puberty. I suppose it flips quite nicely off the tongue, doesn't it? Precocious puberty. Anyway, it's alliterative, so maybe that's why they chose the word precocious. But anyway, it was an interesting experience. And of course, at 5 years old, you don't have anywhere near the vocabulary or the life experience to even begin to understand what's happening to you. So my mother was absolutely brilliant because she sat down and drew diagrams of the male and the female body and correct biological diagrams, and she used the correct wording and inside as well as outside. So I knew all of the organs that were inside of me gynecologically, what they were called, what they did, what was happening to me, why it was happening. I mean, she couldn't explain to me why it's happening so young, but that it was a natural part of being female.
That's brilliant. That's
which
very
is amazing. So she took the fear out of it for me. I spent a week in a children's hospital in the UK, Grace Ormond Street, having various tests done on me. And that was an interesting experience because it's a teaching hospital, which is fantastic. You need teaching hospitals. But the thing is, when you're a child, I don't know who gives permission for that.
Oh.
Because certainly they don't ask the child, because they'd be too young to be able to make a good decision because they don't know what's happening. So maybe they ask parents. It's something I never asked my parents, actually. Did they ask your permission to do what they did to me? I don't know, which is
so you mean about the medical staff, being a case to be studied by the medical students and everything, that kind of thing, right?
But also what happens
it's interesting, it's a very good question. Is actually and even when you are about to deliver a baby or something, sometimes there may be students coming in or something, and it's I think they just turn up. I don't know exactly what's the protocol.
No,
it is a good point that you make, because it's got to do a lot with how you feel. The observer effect, right? That's pure quantum. The fact that you are observed in this, no matter how young you are, and the younger you are, the more this has an imprint in your body that you don't
fully appreciate. I didn't appreciate until decades later, the impact, because the examination, which I had every 6 months until I was 14, so I had that for 9 years.
That's a lot.
Meant being stripped naked, put on a consulting table, with the gynecological stirrups, so your legs are in stirrups, with an internal examination. But it was an internal examination by a man in a white coat and 10 other men standing around at the end of the bed watching, because they were the medical students. Now, nobody asked me if that was okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they asked my parents if that was okay.
Do
But
ask your mother if.
well, unfortunately, she died
Oh.
13 years ago, so I can't.
Okay.
But it would be interesting to go back to Great Ormond Street and ask them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I realise I've needed, because I didn't realise the impact that had on me. Because you don't, do you?
How did you later, looking back, how did you see that this has affected you? Because it's a big one.
It was a big one. I recognised, looking back retrospectively at me on my life, I had 2 marriages in my 20s. So I was married and divorced twice by the time I was 31. And I was kind of reflecting on, what was that about then? What was going on there? You know, what beliefs did I hold about myself that I twice made a mistake? Consciously and subconsciously, I knew they were both the wrong decisions. So why did I go through with them? And it was thinking, okay, let's peel back the layers of the onion then. It was at 31. I think, well, I think I'm a fairly okay woman. Why do I keep meeting idiots? Why do I keep marrying them? So what have these men got in common? Oh, well, that will be me then. I'm the common factor in all my past relationships.
Yeah.
So what is it about me that I might need to look at? What energy am I giving out that's attracting a certain type of person into my life? Because all they're doing is confirming the deeply held belief I have of me. So what is that deeply held belief that I have of me? And what do I need to do to change that? So I change the energy I put out into the world. So I attract different people into my life, because everything rests with us. So that got me tracking back. So what happened then to create this belief that I'm not worthy, that I don't deserve to be treated well, that I don't have respect for myself? Where did that start? So in my head, I was thinking, okay, right. So that's when it started then.
Is the consent that you not having even the possibility to tell them,
yeah, this is not okay. This is not okay.
There
And
is
I recognized that I left my body in all of those examinations. I left the room.
Yeah.
And I came back in when it was over, because that was my way of I didn't realize then that's what I was doing. But when I looked back, and I realized when I became sexually active in my very late teens, I was a lot later starter than most of my friends at school. I was kind of 19, almost 20. I recognized then I was never intimate emotionally. So I could be intimate physically, but not connected emotionally. And that every time I was intimate with a man, I left the room. So I went through the motions, but I was never fully present. So the impact and the damage that experience had on me, until I became consciously aware of it, and then started the journey to recover from that, which took a long time. To kind of come back in to myself and fully appreciate the enormity of that experience. And something that I've now feel ready to do is to go back to Great Ormond Street Hospital and gently challenge, because of course the people who did it are probably dead now. I mean, you were talking 1965, that's a long time ago, and they were quite old then, or to my 5-year-old self they looked old. They're probably younger than me now, but the chances are they're now going to be dead, because that was a long time ago. So it's a gentle challenge, because I can't challenge the people who actually did it, but I can gently challenge the system, and just to ensure that it doesn't continue to happen.
No, I love what you're saying, and I think it's important to have this kind of action, because of course it's like going to a restaurant and eating crap food and then never saying anything about it.
Yeah.
Then it's
Yeah.
the next clients and everybody, all the other women that are going to come back
Yeah.
into the hospital, the protocols that are used and everything, and it's dehumanizing, and also for a child, because I think it's a double thing. So this thing of being observed and being in a case that there is something wrong with me, like if all these people come to me, there's the fact that it came too early. So it was good that your mother did she have, was this something, the fact that it was early, the period, was this something that was in the family? Do you know from your mother or from?
Not as far as I'm aware. No, I think as far as I'm not sure we ever discussed my mum's age. I don't know, actually. So
it would be interesting to know.
It would be interesting.
Yeah, because sometimes it's what things, it's rather the onset of the menses and the stopping with menopause. These are two big phases. And then, of course, when we have children, because this is again, there are, our bodies are memory containers, you know, it's all in the body actually. And then what you describe as well is that you left your body quite often when you were little. So then it's difficult to come in and be in the physicality of our being, and this is where we can experience our emotions and be more inhabiting our vehicle. I don't know how to put it, you know, it's very, it's fundamental. So you did quite a bit of working on this in your 30s, you're saying, right? Already, because of your experiences and what you were attracting. How was, and then how was it when your periods, were they was it something, how was your relationship with your periods because of this experience, because of your initiation into this? How did you relate to your body? Did you hate your body? Were you gentle with it? Did you get help? Did you have other women, or maybe your mother or some other elders? How did you communicate with yourself on these things?
I didn't. I completely disassociated from my body, and I saw it as a nuisance. I saw menstruation as a nuisance. I hated being female. It was an inconvenience. I saw it as a negative, not a positive. And I couldn't wait for it to end. But I had no idea what the menopause was. I didn't even know that word existed. I just kind of assumed, well, it will probably come to an end at some point, but I don't know what that process is, what it's called, when it will turn up. And it's only as I kind of got through life. But yeah, I didn't have a connection with my body, so I ended up abusing my body quite a lot. Whether it's with the wrong relationship, or whether it was putting on weight to try and become invisible so men wouldn't see me. Didn't work, but that was the theory. And then stopping eating, so going from one extreme to the other and becoming anorexic, and just not having that connection with that sense of self, with my femininity. I saw femininity as a weakness, not a strength. And it took me a long time to see actually the female body is incredibly strong. I saw it as letting me down. And creating problems.
So when you were, because I had a question for you, when you speak in the Roar video and you say, why are you doing this to me? Were you talking to your body? Who were
I was talking to the universe.
The universe, to your experience, like, why is it like this, right?
Yeah. I mean, whose idea was this? I mean, really, this is whoever came up with this as a blueprint has got it seriously wrong. It needs a serious rethink, the female body. Why should menstruation is an incredibly powerful part of being female. What the female body does to create another human being is one of the most powerful and important things, of creation. So why does it have to hurt? I can't see the logic of it being painful and traumatic, physically painful and psychologically traumatic. To me, there is no logic. So it was the roar of anger and indignation.
Yeah.
Whose idea was this? I mean, come on, guys, really?
Yeah.
When was this a good idea?
And at the same time, from what you're saying, your introduction to the whole female business of hormones and periods and everything, and men and sexuality and everything, that's also, it makes a difference how we enter this new field, from being a child to being like a young woman, at the beginning, or well, the menses, and then how we evolve into this. So obviously it's not because I feel that we put too much on menopause. It's so charged and we put everything on it, but I think it's actually a force. It's like a benefactor come to our lives that resets us back to where we were really off track. So in many ways, from what you're saying, is like this relationship started off a little bit not in the best way, and to the point where you really rejected your feminine essence. And menopause is all about plugging you back into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It took me a long time to celebrate being female. I wanted to be a man because I was convinced they had a much easier life. I mean, they don't, because they just have different challenges. But you know, that was my young woman's view of it. Why did I turn up as female?
Yeah. It's a big one, huh? Because it's we don't start the same. That we have these cards and we start, and then we like some is like, and so how was your so how did you revisit your femininity, or how did you work on this with yourself across the years from your 30s till now you're 60 something? So it's like in a period of 30 years, which I guess this is also part of where you were very active in your work with leadership and with trainings and with inclusion and diversity and all this. I mean, this is all part of the fabric of your life and your work. How does it blend in with your feminine part and your masculine part, and how did this kind of come in? And I just want to kind of see if we can see the weaving of your story.
It's certainly with the leadership program that I wrote in the early 1990s. It was very much about fully celebrating the female leader. So, you know, from what I had witnessed with all the work that I was doing, is that women were trying to emulate the men in leadership. And I think, hang on a minute. So where's the essence of feminine leadership? Yeah, men are fantastic and they bring huge amounts to the table, and we should celebrate them. But we also need to celebrate feminine leadership. And that actually hasn't got anything to do with gender. It's about feminine and masculine energy that we all have. You know, men have feminine energy and women have masculine energy. But what I was seeing was that women were presenting with their masculine energy and denying their feminine energy, saying, okay, so what does feminine energy bring to the leadership table? Whoever is presenting with that, whether it's a man or a woman, what are the strengths of that feminine leadership? So part of my spiel was, we have to, for you to be a strong woman in business, you have to start celebrating men. And that was quite a shock to people, because the narrative up to that point was men were the devil incarnate, which of course is really, really unfair on men and has a huge psychological impact on men, because 99.9% of men on the planet are really good people, as are 99.9% of women are really good people. You're going to get the bad apples wherever you go, but the majority of us, the people on this planet, are actually really good people. So to demonize men is really, really unfair. So you're demonizing men, but then you are taking the very worst aspects of masculine leadership and you're projecting that onto the world. So I saw a huge disconnect. So start to celebrate men, because if you celebrate men, you're inviting them to celebrate you. But if you keep putting them down, you're creating a bigger division. So let's appreciate each other and what everybody brings to this table, because you're not going to get men to celebrate feminine leadership if you keep running them down. So let's start collaborating and working together and appreciating what we all bring to the table. And don't try and be a man in a dress. You know, no, be a woman when you turn up in the boardroom, when you're running that meeting. Bring your whole feminine self to that.
So how did you what kind of, if you put it in a nugget, like feminine leadership, what are more some of what is that is distinct and feminine in the way women lead? It's not the same way we lead. How would you
how would I wrap that up? It's the right interpretation of self-belief. And I say quite often, if people present passive aggressively or aggressively, the underlying emotion running both of those extremes will be the same. So they're either very passive, they're passive aggressive, or they're aggressive. The underlying emotion is one of fear, sort of not being good enough, of thinking I'm an imposter and somebody's going to find me out. What happens is that men will tend to overcompensate for that fear with aggression, and women will compensate with that fear with passive or passive aggressive behavior. But usually the emotion behind it is exactly the same. It's just that we'll present to the world very differently. So men tend to push their way through and bully their way through that to cover up their internal voice saying, I'm not good enough for this. Whereas women will step back. And I said, neither are right. So how can we find that balance in the middle of assertiveness? And assertiveness is being kind to you and kind to those around you. And actually, if we can start to demonstrate what assertiveness looks like, and it's not aggressive. Assertiveness isn't aggression. It's different. It's about, and to do that, start celebrating other people, because then it makes it easier for you to celebrate you. And women tend to find that easier to do than men.
A bit too easy, may I say, because I think we are more wired to bring the others up rather than ourselves. And then at some point, the choice is what you were saying in business as well. I mean, or in science, or where it's more like male-dominated environments, is that, yeah, like you kind of have to either to protect your feminine sensitivity or to be able to bring forward a more masculine, a more yeah, like what is more the classic example of leadership. So but I think we're very good at bringing the others up. I think it's important to bring ourselves up.
Yeah.
And to bring ourselves in a place where we feel sovereign and we feel clear in what is going on with us. And I think it's more these things that we have sometimes, along our path, or difficulty or not time to go into these things and examine and see, okay, because I think when later, I don't know, I would like to hear more about your menopause story, because how it started, how it was, because I feel that it's a time when that is a classic one, is that all this anger and indignation just gets expressed, right?
Yeah.
And it gets it comes out. It's like it's been too pushed down, so it's like you open up the barrier, and then it's your own suppression that actually finds a way to come out and release. And in many ways, this is so liberating for women, because we keep it so much inside because of all the things you mentioned. And I don't know. I mean, now you tell me about yourself, because like, how was menopause for you? How was it? How did these things, the fact that you were disconnected, this disconnect, how did this turn up in during that phase? And how did you cope with it to start with? Because if it was quite heavy.
It was difficult. I was unlucky. I was in the 1 in 4 women who really, really struggled through the menopausal transition. And when I was going through it, I didn't realize that's what was happening to me, because, it was a while ago now. I wasn't officially postmenopausal until my late 50s. So I had a late menopause and an early puberty. So yeah, thanks.
The longest you can get.
Yeah.
Let's stretch it.
53 years of hormones is enough for anybody, let me tell you. So I was actually really looking forward to that final day, that menopause day. It couldn't come quickly enough. But when I was going through the perimenopause, I didn't realize that's what it was. I thought I was losing my mind. And I hear it from so many women. They think they're losing their mind. I turned into somebody I no longer recognized, which was very discombobulating, because I didn't know why. I was desperately trying to find a logical explanation, and I couldn't find one. So it meant, if I can't explain it to myself, I can't explain it to the people who care about me. They just see the person that they know transforming in front of them, and none of us know what's going on, so they don't know how to support me, and I don't know how to support myself. And it was only a chance conversation with a girlfriend when she told me she'd just been to see a gynecologist, and I started asking her questions, that the penny dropped. I thought, so that's what's been going on. How do you think, with my background of knowing about hormones, and that I would be a bit bit better clued up, but I really, really wasn't. So it was that understanding. Oh, right. So it's not just hot flushes then. So I knew I was perimenopausal. I just didn't know that the perimenopause created everything else I was experiencing. So I was having the hot flushes, and because it wasn't being talked about, I thought that was it. I didn't realize everything else was also part of the perimenopause. I thought, okay, so now I really know what I'm dealing with. So now I can start to navigate my way through it. And then having, the last period, and then, waiting those 12 months. And okay, so that really was the last one then. Hurrah, I'm finally there. And it was that sense of joy, that sense of being set free, finally being set free. I felt as though since the age of 5 to 58, 53 years, I'd been in a straitjacket. And then suddenly somebody had unlocked me, and I could just go, oh, and explode onto the world. And I thought, okay, world, you better be ready, because I'm coming. I'm coming for you, because there is nothing getting in my way now. Absolutely nothing getting in my way. So because I had that negative connection with hormones and menstruation, which I dealt with and, got on with, because I didn't have any choice. We don't, do we? Periods start. We don't have any choice until they stop. And I'd accepted it, but I didn't realize how much energy it took to navigate them until I realized I no longer had to. I didn't realize that I'd organized my training diary around my monthly cycle as much as I could, because I'd done it so instinctively that it wasn't in my conscious mind. It was my subconscious that was doing all of that. And then suddenly my conscious mind had this thought, oh my goodness, I could do anything I want on any day I want. Oh, wow. And it was that realization that I've been free and that my life was truly my own, probably for the first time. Because the first 5 years, your life's not your own, really, is it? And then for the next 53, it really wasn't. I thought, okay, finally at 58, I'm finally in control now. Finally, my life is mine. So what am I going to do with it?
Amazing. No, it's what's so it's what you're describing there is that it felt like you were locked in to hormones and your body. So what was so you said that conversation with your friend, and then awareness started coming in of what's going on. But what was like those really dark moments? And because it's a death and rebirth process. Something it's not just our ovaries and our eggs that no longer produce the eggs, and it's not just the reproductive. There is our identity, and even so what was it, something that, because in that video you mentioned the word that is very strong, that you were nearly suicidal, and I pick on this because it's a very strong dark thoughts. It's like dark. It's a state of desperation that is very, very deep, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was because I didn't understand what was happening to me. I was getting I felt as though I'd ended up in a parallel universe. I'd walked through a veil that I didn't even know was there, but apparently there was this veil, and I somehow walked through it, and I'd ended up in another world. So I was an observer, and I was no longer a participant. So I could see where I used to live, where all the normal people, whatever normal is, but I could see them all getting on with their daily lives. And I thought, I used to be there. I don't know where I am, and I don't know how I've ended up here, but I don't live there anymore. And I don't think I'm ever going to get back to there again. And can't see me feeling better. I can only ever see me feeling worse. And I felt old. I felt invisible. I felt washed up. As I had no purpose anymore. And then when I realized what it was all about, I thought, oh, okay. I've gone from being a woman who can reproduce to a woman. End of story. Yeah. So what am I going to do now? What am I going to do? I'm no longer defined in society by my reproductive body. That's finished. Thank you. Finally, that has finished. So the world is going to see me differently. and I can choose how they see me because I'm in control of how I project myself. I'm in control of the energy I take out into the world now. If I choose to stay invisible, that's my choice. And some people do, and they have the right to make that choice. But if I choose to be invisible, it's because I've chosen it, not because other people have told me that's who I now am. I made the opposite choice. I made the choice to be as visible as I possibly could be. And the older I get, the more visible I become. And that was my conscious choice. So I think, okay, what energy am I taking out into the world? Because I know from past experience, my energy creates my reality. So what reality do I want as a postmenopausal woman? What do I want these final years, decades to look like and to be? So I have to really think. I don't have to do anything, but I can choose to think, what energy do I have about myself? What energy do I put out into the world? And what response from the world do I want to have coming back to me? So it was a very conscious decision to step up and to shine rather than to extinguish and disappear.
And that snapped you out of that dark field, right? That because I was wondering what it was, and sometimes it's amazing. It's just to have it was like an illumination in your being, an insight, right? Okay, that's what's going on. And since you've also had this long experience of having your period, then for you, and plus the fact that you were waiting for that you would want this to stop, that for you was very healing, the fact that this was the end of it. Yeah. So looking back at all those years, what do you feel they taught you, like your period and the hormones? What it's a weird question a little bit, in a sense that, but I feel compelled to ask you, because I understand that for you it was very heavy, all this, but looking back now, and now knowing that you're back to your woman self, that you are finally coming in, and becoming more and more visible with who you are, the part of you that before, okay, it's associated to that hormonal journey with the menses, but how, if you look at yourself during those years, do you feel tenderness? Do you feel, what was it that helped you tune with yourself more? Because it's not all to, we cannot just say, okay, now no more, and then we stop and then that's it, no more, period. We are at an age and older where it's important to do this life review. It's important to do this. Okay, I had this 53 years of hormones and period. What does this mean? That's like half of your life, or like more. So it's and at the same time, it's a lot of innate knowledge. I mean, you said you intuitively started doing your trainings and your workshops and everything. It's according to your cycle. So that's tuned you into your nature, whether you wanted it or not, right?
Yeah, I think it was looking back and fully appreciating the power of the feminine, which I don't think I'd been in denial for most of my life of the power of the feminine. I thought it was detrimental to be female in the world rather than a positive thing. So it was switching that, and that journey started when I started my own personal development of the power of the feminine. So it's not that kicked in postmenopausally. That was work that I did from my early 30s through to my 40s. And then wrote the book in my early 50s and rewrote it in my late 50s. Wrote it again, updated it, and it was drawing on. So what was all of that about then?
Yeah.
And recognizing that very few things happen by accident.
Exactly.
So what was the point of that for me? So I don't know. There is a belief that some of us choose to have an experience on Earth. Some of us believe that it's just random and there is no other being or life, or so what, doesn't really matter what our beliefs are. Our beliefs are our beliefs and they're important to us. But if I was to go along the line of, okay, so if the fact that that my soul chose to have this experience. If that is true, I don't know if that's true or is make believe. I have no idea, and I won't know until I die, and then it's too late. So let's work on the assumption that it's true. If it's true, why? Why did I choose that? Why did I choose to have the experiences that I've had? What is my purpose? If that was a conscious choice before I turned up in the body of that baby, why? What was it all about? What was the point? So there must have been a purpose, because there's no way you would choose to have that if there wasn't a higher purpose to it. There wasn't a higher meaning to that. So what was that higher meaning? And I thought, okay, well, there's no point having all of these experiences and the information that I've gained if I keep it to myself. It's like your grandmother dying with the best ginger cake recipe in the world and not sharing it with anybody. What's the point of that? Because it's lost, and it's lost to the world forever once she's gone. So I don't have children, so I can't, when I die, that's it. There is no more me in any shape or form. So what can I do that makes my presence here have a point? So what information can I share? What stones can I throw into that pond, and how far can I ensure that the ripples go out, so that my experiences of life can help who can I inspire here and here and here and here, who will take that message out to their networks. So my being here has a point. And somebody said to me, because I was talking through with a therapist years ago and regretting the fact that I wasn't a mother, because I always wanted to be a mother. So talking through my sadness that was not my experience, because, you know, that's part of being female, isn't it? Is creating that other being inside of you and giving life to another human being. And it's something I haven't experienced. And she said, yeah, but would you be doing the work that you're doing now if you'd been a mother? I said, well, we will never know the answer to that question, will we? Because, you know, that's a parallel life that I have no idea. And they said, okay, the chances are your desperation to be a mother, you may have thrown yourself so wholeheartedly into it that you might have denied your career. And you could have been a mother to one or two human beings, but what you're doing is being a mother to thousands and potentially millions. Maybe that's your purpose. I went, oh, okay.
I like
that way. Thank you, because that helped me come to terms with the fact that I hadn't given birth to another human being.
Yeah.
The fact that actually maybe I can be a mother to hundreds, to thousands, to millions around the world, of everybody, not just women, of everybody, by going out and sharing that information, sharing that knowledge, sharing that wisdom, and saying to people, whoever they are, believe in your magnificence. Shine. The world needs you to shine. So don't hide behind that curtain. Come out from behind the curtain and take center stage into that spotlight, and don't be embarrassed.
So are you, that's beautiful, everything that you're saying, and I love it. And I think you are an example of how you, like I said earlier on, you alchemized this difficult, especially the phase as well, where it went really dark, really come back to your feminine self. But how are you bringing more of, I mean, obviously you're a bit of an advocate on menopause. You go out and you bring in midlife and talk about these matters, and I think we don't have enough voices and enough women as well out there bringing more the magnificent parts. We have a little bit too much of how we're going to fix the problems, which is a bit more of a masculine way. I also love both the masculine and the feminine. I've done like both, and I've had more of this, more of that. But it's this if we just try to fix our bodies or fix ourselves, so we see menopause as another problem on our list of things that we need to figure out. It doesn't really help.
It doesn't. No.
It doesn't help
It really
at all.
doesn't.
And it can even take you that deep to where you were if you're lacking a little bit as well, like context, you know, because context is key. then is your local, and then is even culture is key. You know, how culture affects this.
Yeah, it's huge.
And then like it's a more feminine way to address this process. It's a very feminine process. That's why women have it.
Mm, I know. It's amazing. It's an amazingly powerful rite of passage. You know, pregnancy and childbirth is not a female globally shared experience, but the menopause is. And also it's made me rethink aging. You know, so I see aging now as something incredibly positive, because, you know, it's a huge privilege to get older. Not every person has the privilege to get old. So I think it's a huge privilege that I've outlived both of my grandmothers, and hopefully I'll outlive my mother. She was 81 when she died, so hopefully I'll make it into my early mid, if I'm very lucky, late 90s. Who knows? You know, I do whatever I can to look after myself, to keep myself healthy, because it's not about the number of years, it's about the quality of those years, not the quantity. Quantity is only good if you've got the quality that runs alongside it, and some part of the quality is out of our control, but a big part of it is within our control with the lifestyle choices that we make. So to ensure as much as we can, we have the quality as well as the quantity of life. But it's rethinking, you know, in some parts of the world, menopause is called the second spring. So it's very much seen as the rebirth. So I think, okay, what am I going to do with my second spring? I'm in either the final quarter or the final third of my life. If I'm lucky, I'm in the final third of my life. So what can I learn from the previous 2/3? And there's a great quote from David Bowie, which I always start off my sessions with, is aging is that extraordinary process where you become the person you always should have been. So I see aging as is my opportunity to become the person I always should have been. So the person I was born to be, I can now embrace as I'm getting older, because I'm not trying to impress anybody anymore, which we are desperate to do when we're younger. To say I don't care what people think of me is wrong, because we all care what people think of us. I have less invested in the opinions of others. So I'm far more likely to have the confidence to do what I want to do rather than doing things to please other people or doing what they think I should be doing. Marrying the person they think I should be marrying. Even deep in my subconscious, I knew that was the wrong mistake, but I didn't want to upset people. You know, we can let go of all of that. And we're far more likely to be the person we were born to be as we get older, because we are not desperately trying to please and impress and be competitive with the world around us. The only person I'm in competition with is myself.
Yeah.
If I choose to be.
To become a better version of yourself every
Yeah.
single time. And I love this. This is so beautiful. And you're a brilliant example of this. And I want to mention your bachelor in, what did you do?
My master's.
Your master's, yeah.
Yeah.
Please tell us about this, because you went back to university at age 60.
At the age of 60, yeah.
And I think is brilliant. And so tell us about it, and it's even related to menopause. Please tell us about it. Because
I could not have contemplated doing this when I was in the height of my perimenopause. So my 50s, there's no way I could have considered this. But you know, I was officially postmenopausal at 58. I'd gone the year without a period. And when I reached that, you know, the decades are kind of like the milestone birthdays, aren't they? So I can remember being away with my partner to celebrate my 60th. Okay, so what am I going to do to mark my 60th? What am I going to do? Because, you know, I could have 30, maybe 35. Push, I might have 40, but probably 30 to 35 years left is more realistic. What am I going to do? I thought, I know. I'll go back to study then, as well as running a full-time business. That sounds like a good idea. So I did a master's in professional practice. So it's a master's linked to my work, which was fantastic. So the research project was linked to the business. So my research project was around menopause and personality, because we have our own personality profiling tool that we use. Started off with leadership, team building, communication. And what I was witnessing with the work that I've been doing with women around the menopause is that different women appeared to have different stress triggers. So what really was incredibly difficult for one woman to navigate, for another woman, didn't bother her in the slightest, or was of no concern to her.
Yeah.
Where, so I thought, okay, I wonder if personality has got something to do with that. So, a woman who's very rational, will she view her menopausal transition as a woman who's very collaborative? So I thought, okay, so that was my research project. So it was using our personality profiling tool. I developed a questionnaire because all the questionnaires are very medically focused. So they're all about symptoms. I thought, okay, well, this is fantastic, but I want to know what is the impact of these symptoms having on a woman and how she chooses to live her life as she's navigating them. And there was no questionnaires that captured the impact on a woman's life, on her decisions of how she lived that life. So I created a quality of life questionnaire based on how you live your life, not the medical symptoms, because there's plenty of medical symptoms questionnaires out there, together with the core matrix. And then I interviewed so many women in each of the 4 styles and asked them the same questions. And it was absolutely fascinating, that yes, personality would appear, it was only a small cohort of 100 women, but personality would appear to influence the impact of the menopausal transition on a woman and how she chooses to live life.
But when you say personality, so basically you kind of try to find the ingredients that made it that some women would, the way they relate to this whole change process was more, I don't know what's the word, they embraced it versus fighting or being taken over.
Yeah, and also the support mechanisms that were most suitable for them were different. So for instance, one very rational woman I interviewed said, I don't care what other women are going through, that's of no interest to me. And I have absolutely no desire whatsoever to share my experiences with other women. I'm very private. What's tipped me over the, yeah, okay, I'm having hot flushes, yeah, whatever. What's tipped me over the edge is that she said, I'm quite minimalist and my house is always immaculate. The bit that's tipped me over the edge is I don't have the energy to keep it clean and tidy. And that is driving me insane. I look around my house and I know it's a mess and I just haven't got the motivation or the energy to do anything about it. And that has depressed me more than you can ever believe. So for her, that was a bit that tipped her over the edge. Yeah, if you're struggling, well, that's your problem. Don't want to know.
Yeah, because mess and mental, when you're very mental, you like it being in boxes and having
absolutely
here and a mess.
She couldn't control her body and it was driving her insane. Whereas the collaborative woman was saying, I want to get out and I want to talk to other women. I want to share what I'm going through. I want to get as much information as possible. I want to set up groups. And I haven't got the energy to go out and be with my friends as I used to. And that really depresses me because I'm too tired to go out with my friends and I miss that social interaction. So it was different things. And 2 different women, one very rational, said, I went to the doctor. I had the worst experience. I said, okay, talk me through what happened. And she said, for the whole appointment, all the doctor did was sit there with this smile on his face, with his head on one side, and kept asking me how I was feeling. She said, I wanted to slap him. All I wanted was somebody to say, this is what's wrong with you. Here's a prescription. Go away and come back in 3 months. I don't want to talk about how I was feeling. And then another woman who's strongly collaborative, she said, I had the worst experience in the surgery. Okay, tell me what happened. The woman didn't make eye contact with me once. She was tapping away at her computer. She gave me a prescription and said, take this, come back in 3 months. All I wanted to do was somebody to listen to me.
No connection, yeah.
No connection. So if they'd had each other's GPs, they would have had a perfect experience. But they didn't realize that's what they needed. So they didn't realize that's what they needed to ask for.
And it's the medicine we get. We get the medicine we need. If you're too social and then social life defines you, then I do believe menopause is a kind of force that will do things and so that you go more back to yourself. And if you're too much with yourself, then it's gonna bring you out. It's feminine magic. I don't know. It's fascinating.
So I think, if I can empower women to recognize what they need to have in place that's going to allow them to navigate this transition in a way that's right and appropriate for them, that's going to take away some of the angst. So that was the purpose of it, which I'm hoping to continue with the doctorate.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, the work a little bit, what I do is more underneath the symptoms, because I think there's a
Right.
lot out there doing a lot of, from diet to hormones to GPs to, I mean, each woman should go out and find the right people for her.
Yeah.
But then there is everything is like seeing the whole process from the underneath a bit. Okay, what does all this and sometimes the symptom is messiness, like it's
Yeah.
nothing physical, or too tired, that like the other one that we're saying, that's like you could qualify it as a symptom, but they are just messages. Symptoms, whether it's physical or mental or emotional or even spiritual. A lot of women, you were talking about purpose and your calling, and it's just a time when you tune in with who you really are and what it is that really makes you, makes your heart sing. It's important.
Really important.
Very important.
And interesting what you were saying about, it's a form of medicine, because when I was pre-menopause, I was the one that organized all of the events with all of my girlfriends. I was out there arranging this, arranging that. They all thought I was very well organized. I'm not, but what I wanted was them to have a good time. And what it taught me, because when I didn't have the energy to do that, when I was going through the peak of my perimenopause, the lesson it taught me was the power of being able to receive, because I'd always given, but I couldn't receive that well. And suddenly I didn't have the energy to give. So they were giving to me and I had to learn how to receive. So that was my lesson in that.
I think it's a classic menopause lesson for everyone. It's a various doses that we get.
Yeah.
It's a classic one for women. I think this, to learn to receive, because we are givers naturally. And receiving is it comes.
It's a tricky business.
Yeah. So I think we're coming to an end. I wanted to say you're planning to do a PhD, right?
I am.
This, and hey, well done. I've done a PhD, but I'm just gonna say one of the things to do a PhD is to have a very good subject that you really love, because it's a long time and it's a process in itself, a PhD. So.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And also your the person you're going to work with, the professor, has got to be someone that you really is as important as your subject. But I think at that age, I mean, when I did it, I didn't, I wanted to go to France. That's why part of it, why I did a PhD, it's the reason why you do things, but yeah, well done. I'm looking forward to see what you're gonna find out in your research on this. It will be amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I feel excited. I have no idea what the future brings, and actually that's really exciting.
Wow, good.
Yeah. And hopefully I've got a good few decades left of me yet, hopefully.
Yeah. So Katie, just before we go, if you had even I would make it a little bit more precise, if you had some woman that that is going through her menopause right now, what would be one or two, your 2 cents, kind of like, is something that to offer, like, to her, to say, what would be not exactly advice, but like from an elder position, having gone through that, what would be something that you would
to embrace it? It's a powerful feminine rite of passage. It's probably the most powerful rite of passage you will experience, because the other rite of passage is puberty, when you've got it all stretching out ahead of you. This is the rite of passage when you can go bye, and you come out the end of that tunnel, and the light at the end of that tunnel is one of the brightest lights you will ever see in your life. So step into it, embrace it, and shine brightly, because life on the other side is fantastic.
Oh, beautiful. Excellent. No, I think we do need these messages, and we do need this encouragement, and we do need examples of women that talk about our experience and the sharing. Maybe not everyone, but like you were saying in your study, that there are many that it would help. Yeah, for sure.
Brilliant.
Okay, Katie. Well,
Oh,
thank you
thank
so
you. It
very
was
much.
great fun. Thank you.
It was really lovely talking to you. And yeah, thank you. And carry on the good work with
I
the.
will. And you too. What you're doing is fabulous. Really, and really important. So fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, we'll meet again in the menopause arena.
Absolutely. I'm sure we
Not
will.
fighting, but kind of like talking about her and
Yeah.
giving
Okay.
her back the power and the essence of what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.